Chapter 2709. In Dark Spring City, the powerhouses of the 8 great hells had gathered. Hells were densely packed and spread outside the city, covering the mountains and plains. And now, 4 hell overlords had died in front of so many hells. The visual and spiritual impact was too great. The hells could not react for a moment and were stunned on the spot. On the altar, in Wu Dao's purgatory, other than Wu Dao himself, Tang Kong and Princess Yufei were also there. They were also in this domain, but the 4 hell overlords had died tragically on the spot, while Tang Kong and Princess Yufei were unharmed. This was Wu Dao himself's meticulous control of the domain. Tang Kong's heart was stirred. Although he knew that Wu Dao's combat strength would increase greatly after his breakthrough, he did not expect it to reach such a level. What power is this? Hell Overlord Dark Spring frowned slightly and said, "This doesn't seem to be a grotto heaven, nor does it belong to some technique of the middle world." Hell Overlord Dark Spring slowly got up and took the giant axe from his back. He grinned at Wu Dao himself and said, "No matter what technique it is, you will die here today and be buried with them." Hell Overlord Dark Spring sighed and said, "At my age I don't want to care about this matter, but I can't sit by and watch you kill my people. Just because the infernal court is in the age of chaos, you can kill at will and be invincible?" Hell Overlord Dark Spring waved his hand and said, "No need to talk to him. Let him see our true power." As soon as his voice fell, Hell Overlords Dark Spring, and Bitter Spring released their grotto heavens at the same time and suppressed Wu Dao himself. As soon as the 3 hell overlords released their grotto heavens, Wu Dao himself sensed that something was wrong. These 3 grotto heavens obviously contained a more terrifying power, causing their grotto heavens to transform to another level. Tang Kong also felt the power fluctuation contained in the 3 hell overlords' grotto heavens, and his expression changed drastically as he exclaimed, "A quasi-emperor." The 3 hell overlords' grotto heavens had cultivated a wisp of world power. This also meant that the 3 hell overlords were half a step into the emperor realm, and were already quasi-emperor level powerhouses. That's right. Dark Spring Hell Overlord Dark Spring grinned proudly. The 3 hell overlords were so confident and calm and collected because they had enough power to rely on. The heavens and earth are broken, the great Tao and laws are incomplete. How can you? Tang Kong was still in disbelief, his expression shocked. The martial emperor realm was no longer something that could be achieved by relying on abundant cultivation resources. To be able to cultivate to the grotto heaven realm and be conferred the title of king, which one of their subordinates didn't have endless resources? But how many of them were able to step into the monarch realm? The realm was emperor's realms? World? Heavens as heavens and worlds laws world heavens and world realm laws. Only by constantly fusing these insights into one's own grotto heaven and accumulating them would one be able to transform and condense a world. For example, heavenly grotto heavens of the middle world, what they needed to comprehend was the middle world. The reason why no emperor realm powerhouses were born after the infernal court entered the age of chaos was because the heavens and earth were broken, the great Tao was incomplete, and the laws were incomplete. If this world was incomplete, how could one comprehend a real world? Therefore, even though they were hell overlords and had control over an endless amount of cultivation resources, they were still unable to step into the emperor realm. 4 hell overlord Dark Spring, and Acheron, comprehending a wisp of world power by breaking the heavens and earth was already the limit. It was no exaggeration to say that if the 3 hell overlords were thrown into the middle world, they could quickly step into the emperor realm and become real emperors. Wu Dao frowned slightly. The 3 quasi-emperor level powerhouses were indeed beyond his expectations. With his current small success in understanding, he could not fight against the grotto heavens of a quasi-emperor. If he used the prison suppression cauldron, he should be able to fight against a quasi-emperor. But now, with 3 quasi-emperors attacking at the same time, Wu Dao's pressure increased sharply. If he did not know about the change in Qinglian's real body, Wu Dao's real body had other choices. He could have avoided the attack and left with Tang Kong and Princess Yufei first. The 3 quasi-emperors were powerful, but it was impossible for them to keep him here. And now, the fate of Qinglian's real body was unknown. The longer this dragged on, the more danger Qinglian's real body was in. Boom, boom, boom. The three hell overlords did not give Wu Dao's real body too much time to breathe. The three quasi-emperor grotto heavens attacked Wu Dao's purgatory continuously. More than half of the flames in Wu Dao's purgatory were extinguished. The range of Wu Dao's domain was also constantly shrinking. Wu Dao's real body's consciousness moved, and an ancient bronze square cauldron flew out from his glabella, exuding a heart-palpitating pressure. The moment the prison suppression cauldron descended, the three hell overlords' grotto heavens were clearly suppressed. Screech. This. Immediately after, the four saint souls on the prison suppression cauldron were awakened. They came down from the prison suppression cauldron and charged toward hell overlord Zhongquan. At the same time, Wu Dao's real body also targeted hell overlord Zhongquan. If he wanted to break out of this situation, he had to use all his strength to kill one of the hell overlords. Hell overlord Zhongquan was Su Zimo's first target. You want to kill me? Hell overlord Zhongquan also saw Su Zimo's intention. He grinned and was not afraid at all. Instead, he held his giant axe and charged toward Su Zimo. Wu Dao's real body moved and charged toward hell overlord Zhongquan. The sound of waves came from the three hell overlords' bodies at the same time. The three hell overlords' bloodline phenomenons also erupted. The three quasi-emperor grotto heavens and the three quasi-emperor bloodline phenomenons descended at the same time. Wu Dao's purgatory, which was already on the verge of collapse, could not withstand it at all. Sizzle! The flames in Wu Dao's purgatory were instantly extinguished by the three hell overlords' spring water. Wu Dao's real body was exposed to the attacks of the three hell overlords. On the other side, the four saint souls had also reached hell overlord Zhongquan's side. The azure dragon coiled around, the white tiger bit, the vermilion bird burned, and the spiritual turtle charged forward. The four saint souls did not defend or dodge. Under the control of Wu Dao's real body, they unleashed their most ferocious attacks. They sacrificed themselves to break open a crack in hell overlord Zhongquan's grotto heaven. Wu Dao's real body's eyes lit up as he charged through the crack. However, other than the protection of the quasi-emperor grotto heavens, hell overlord Zhongquan also had the hell overlord Zhongquan's bloodline phenomenons. Wu Dao's real body ignored the corrosive damage from the hell overlord Zhongquan's body. He broke through the hell overlord Zhongquan's body. Good timing! Hell overlord Zhongquan's eyes flashed fiercely. He had no intention of dodging at all. He raised his giant axe and slashed it toward Wu Dao's head. At the same time, hell overlord Zhongquan and Acheron brought their two quasi-emperor grotto heavens and two bloodline phenomenons to the back of Wu Dao's real body. Chapter 2710. Wu Dao ignored the attacks from hell overlord Hongquan and Acheron behind him. His eyes were like torches as he stared fixedly at hell overlord Zhongquan in front of him. It was impossible for him to break through their joint attack unscathed. Only by taking a risk could he turn the situation around. Moreover, Wu Dao believed that with the strength of Wu Dao's real body, he would be able to withstand the attacks from hell overlord Hongquan and Acheron. Hell overlord Zhongquan naturally would not retreat in the face of Wu Dao's murderous aura. Firstly, he was a quasi-emperor expert and had no reason to be afraid. Secondly, unless Wu Dao's real body could kill him within a breath's time. Otherwise, when hell overlord Hongquan and Acheron attacked, Araki Takashi would be severely injured even if he did not die. When that happened, he would take the opportunity to counterattack and kill this person on the spot. In the face of hell overlord Zhongquan's giant axe, Wu Dao's real body did not dodge or even block it. He even took out the prison suppressing cauldron and smashed it viciously at hell overlord Zhongquan's head. He did not hold back at all. What a lunatic! Hell overlord Zhongquan cursed in his heart. Araki Takashi was obviously courting death. In his opinion, Wu Dao's real body knew that he could not escape death, so he was going crazy and wanted to take him with him before he died. A life for a life. Hell overlord Zhongquan did not want to die. If he was killed by Wu Dao's real body, it would only benefit hell overlord Hongquan and Acheron. Moreover, the three of them had the upper hand in the current situation because they were quasi-emperors. There was no need for him to take this risk. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Hell Overlord Zhong Quan's aura naturally weakened. Wu Dao's real body's eyes shone brightly and two balls of purple flames burned in his eyes. This flaw was almost undetectable. Even if it could be detected, it would not pose any substantial threat to Hell Overlord Zhong Quan. However, Wu Dao's real body would not let go of such an opportunity. He suddenly opened his mouth and let out the deafening sound of myriad spirits. Roar! At that moment, it was as if billions of creatures were shouting in Prison Master Zhong Quan's ears. The impact was too strong and too sudden. Prison Overlord Deep Spring trembled. He felt his ears buzzing. His consciousness paused for a moment, and the giant axe in his hands slowed down. Normally speaking, even an immortal king at the peak of the Grotto Heaven realm would most likely die from the roar of Wu Dao's true body at such a distance. After all, Prison Overlord Zhong Quan was a quasi-emperor expert. In the blink of an eye, he regained his senses. At this moment, a shadow descended in front of his eyes. He wanted to retreat and dodge, but it was too late. The prison suppressing cauldron smashed down and hit the top of Prison Overlord Zhong Quan's head. Even the flesh and blood of a quasi-emperor could not withstand the emperor weapon, the prison suppressing cauldron. Hell Overlord Zhong Quan's head was crushed by the prison suppressing cauldron, and his primordial spirit was destroyed. The entire process happened in an instant. A battle between top experts was fought over an instant. Just as Wu Dao's true body unleashed the prison suppressing cauldron and smashed Prison Overlord Zhong Quan to death, Prison Overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron's attacks had already landed on him. Wu Dao's true body killed Prison Overlord Zhong Quan while being besieged by 3 quasi-emperors. He would definitely have to pay a price. 2 quasi-emperors' Grotto Heavens and 2 quasi-emperors' bloodline phenomenons all bombarded Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wu Dao's true body almost exploded. His clothes were torn, and ghastly wounds appeared on the surface of his body. The terrifying power was still raging inside his body. If Wu Dao's true body had not been refining Wu Dao's true body with the Wu Dao furnace and Wu Dao technique, this attack would have been enough to destroy him. He's still not dead? Shock and fear flashed across the eyes of Prison Overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron. They might not have been able to withstand such terrifying power even if they were in Wu Dao's shoes. Of course, Prison Overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron reacted extremely quickly and made a prompt decision. They did not give Wu Dao's true body any time to breathe. After the 2 quasi-emperors' Grotto Heavens and bloodline phenomenons, their quasi-emperor divine weapons also descended. Prison Overlord Zhong Quan waved a pitch-black sword in his hand. Sharp barbs grew from the spine of the sword like the fangs of a giant beast. Prison Overlord Acheron waved a withered yellow magic staff. As he waved it, Acheron filled the air. The pitch-black sword descended from the sky and slashed through Wu Dao's true body. The true Wu Dao's true body was on the verge of collapsing and exploding. Now that it was slashed by Prison Overlord Zhong Quan's quasi-emperor divine weapon, it could not withstand the attack and was slashed into 2. The withered yellow magic staff pointed forward and a huge yellow torrent struck the remains of Wu Dao's true body. The huge force shattered the true Wu Dao's true body into pieces and burst into a cloud of blood mist. It was over. Prison Overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this. Their hearts skipped a beat when they saw that Wu Dao's true body was able to withstand their full-force attack and not die. Fortunately, this person was severely injured and was at the end of his tether. That was why he was killed by their divine weapons. A look of grief and regret flashed across Tang Kong's eyes. Then, there was only calmness left. He had long expected this day and was mentally prepared for it. As long as Wu Dao's true body died, he would definitely be buried with it. Princess Yufei stared at this scene in a daze. Her mind was blank. The many infernal realm beings around the altar finally came to their senses and burst into cheers. Of course, there were many infernal realm elites among the 8 great infernal realms who had complicated expressions. The infernal court had indeed won this battle. But the price they had paid for this outsider from a middle world was too great. Only 2 of the 9 great prison overlords were still alive. The rest had all fallen. This was equivalent to the 9 great infernal realms going through a major change of blood. The infernal realm beings below the altar kept cheering. But it did not take long for these cheers to gradually die down. In the end, there was complete silence. All of the infernal realm beings stared at the scene on the altar with wide eyes in disbelief. Prison overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron had long noticed the abnormality. After the death of desolate Marshall earlier on, his body that was torn into pieces had mysteriously vanished. Right at the place where he died, a dark and deep grotto heaven appeared. And in this dark grotto heaven, there was obviously a life force. He's not dead. Prison overlord Zhong Quan and Acheron looked surprised and doubtful as they stared at the dark grotto heaven not far away. Even with the 2 prison overlords' knowledge, they could not understand what was going on. Just a small success grotto heaven? The 2 prison overlords checked and felt slightly relieved. Prison overlord Zhong Quan sneered, "Playing tricks. If you transform into a grotto heaven, I'll kill you again." End of chapter. Chapter 27:11. Wu Dao's true body was wary, so he did not use the origin martial grotto heaven. However, his true Wu Dao body had been shattered by the 2 boundary emperors, so the origin martial grotto heaven naturally appeared. His true Wu Dao body was the origin martial grotto heaven. The 2 boundary emperors had destroyed his origin martial grotto heaven. Only then could he be considered to have truly died. Of course, his origin martial grotto heaven was only at the initial stage and could not fight against the 2 Hellmasters. The power of a boundary emperor was indeed terrifying. When the 2 boundary emperors worked together, they could even shatter the true Wu Dao body, which had already stepped into the martial domain realm. One had to know that the true Wu Dao body not only contained the techniques of Wu Dao, but also the domain formed by countless Dao techniques. Unexpectedly, it still could not block the attacks of the 2 boundary emperors. Of course, the injuries of Wu Dao's true body were not as serious as the 2 Hellmasters had imagined. The true Wu Dao body shattered, and the origin martial grotto heaven appeared. In the battle just now, he had killed 6 Hellmasters in succession. 4 of their perfected grotto heavens were devoured by his Wu Dao purgatory. After the Wu Dao purgatory devoured these perfected grotto heavens, the power of these grotto heavens and the Dao techniques nurtured in them all flowed into the origin martial grotto heaven. In other words, after cultivating the domain, Wu Dao's true body did not need to release the origin martial grotto heaven to devour other grotto heavens. Just by relying on the Wu Dao purgatory, it could help the origin martial grotto heaven grow. At this moment, in the perfected grotto heavens of the 4 Hellmasters, in addition to countless Dao techniques, there was also a huge amount of vitality. While the origin martial grotto heaven was refining and absorbing this huge amount of vitality, the injuries of the true Wu Dao body were also rapidly healing. At this moment, a strange movement came from the depths of the origin martial grotto heaven. The netherworld treasure mirror. After being burned once by the soul lamp, this strange Dharma treasure fell silent and did not move for a long time. Now, the true Wu Dao body shattered and burst out a large amount of blood essence, which was all devoured by the netherworld treasure mirror. Wu Dao's main body suddenly had a strange feeling. After the netherworld treasure mirror had devoured a large amount of his blood essence, he seemed to have established a connection with it. Originally, he didn't know how to control the mirror. At this moment, Wu Dao's true body's consciousness moved, and the netherworld treasure mirror actually followed his consciousness and moved, flying out of the origin martial grotto. Hell Overlord Acheron stared at the dark grotto heaven not far away. He narrowed his old eyes and did not rush forward. The gloomy wonderland posed no threat to him. However, there seemed to be something extremely terrifying in the depths of this dark grotto heaven that made his heart skip a beat. This feeling disappeared in a flash, as if it was an illusion. However, Hell Overlord Acheron was still cautious. He had never felt such palpitations ever since he became a quasi-emperor. Out of caution, Hell Overlord Acheron did not choose to attack with Hell Overlord Hong Quan. Given Hell Overlord Hong Quan's quasi-emperor cultivation, It was extremely easy for him to destroy a small grotto heaven. If Hell Overlord Hong Quan killed Araki Takashi completely, there was no harm in letting him be the Hell Overlord. Hell Overlord Hong Quan stepped forward and stared at the dark grotto heaven not far away. He sneered and waved the pitch-black sword in his hand, stabbing towards the dark grotto heaven. At this moment, a dark light suddenly flew out from the origin martial grotto and blocked Hell Overlord Hong Quan's pitch-black sword. It was a dark circular mirror that looked a little ancient. When Hell Overlord Hong Quan's pitch-black sword struck the mirror, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Immediately after, Hell Overlord Hong Quan's body shuddered. Crack, crack, crack. A series of cracking sounds could be heard from the pitch-black sword. Hell Overlord Hong Quan's pupils constricted. Tiny cracks had already appeared on the pitch-black sword and were gradually spreading. In the blink of an eye, they covered the entire sword. His quasi-emperor weapon had actually shattered. How was that possible? Hell Overlord Hong Quan instinctively looked at the dark mirror beneath his sword. The mirror slowly floated up and a blood-red light suddenly appeared in the center of the mirror. Then, it gradually expanded and was stretched to the center of the mirror. The entire mirror was like a pitch-black eye. The blood-red light was like the blood-red pupil of the eye that stared at Hell Overlord Hong Quan. The moment Hell Overlord Hong Quan and Hell Overlord Netherworld saw the mirror clearly, their expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with endless fear. When the blood-red light appeared on the mirror, Hell Overlord Hong Quan's expression was filled with despair. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the blood-red pupil in the mirror suddenly shot out a beam of blood-red light and landed on Hell Overlord Hong Quan's body. Then, Hell Overlord Hong Quan transformed into a pool of blood and scattered on the altar. Hell Overlord Hong Quan's primordial spirit did not manage to escape and was destroyed on the spot. The quasi-emperor level Hell Overlord Hong Quan died on the spot. Moreover, his death was extremely tragic and strange. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a pool of blood without any resistance. Around the altar, countless experts from Hell sucked in cold breaths, their hearts trembling. For some reason, the aura exuded by the dark mirror made them feel a fear that came from the depths of their souls. The blood-red pupil that appeared on the mirror made many Hell beings tremble in fear. Even the quasi-emperor level Hell Overlord Hong Quan was turned into a pool of blood by the blood-red pupil. Who could withstand it? Underworld Treasure Mirror. Hell Overlord Acheron suddenly shouted, "It's the Underworld Treasure Mirror." Hearing these words, many Hell experts seemed to awaken the long-buried fear in their memories. "Greetings, Lord of Hell." The Lord of Hell must have returned. Many of the infernal realm beings were terrified, and some of them even knelt down in front of the mirror above the altar, muttering incantations. Of course, although many Hell beings were terrified, they still stood where they were with confused expressions. Hearing Acheron's shout, the underworld treasure mirror in midair suddenly turned slightly. The blood-red pupil on it turned and instantly locked onto Hell Overlord Acheron. Underworld Treasure Mirror. Hell Overlord Acheron shuddered when the blood-red pupil on the underworld treasure mirror locked onto him. He knelt on the altar and kowtowed in the direction of the dark cave as he shouted, "Please spare my life, Lord of Hell. Please spare my life." The blood-red pupil on the underworld treasure mirror had obviously dimmed after killing Hell Overlord Hong Quan. However, the underworld treasure mirror and the blood-red light that appeared on it were still a huge shock to Hell Overlord Acheron and the Hell beings present. After seeing Hell Overlord Acheron's actions, the hesitant Hell experts no longer dared to hesitate and knelt on the ground one after another. Wu Dao's original body had reappeared at some point in time, holding the underworld treasure mirror in his hand. Then, an extremely shocking scene appeared in Black Spring City. With the altar as the center, densely packed Hell beings knelt down in circles and continued to spread until they could not see the end of Black Spring City. Chapter 27:12. When Tang Kong heard the words Netherworld Treasure Mirror, his face turned pale and he hurriedly knelt down. Only Wu Dao and Princess Yufei were still standing on the altar. Princess Yufei looked a little confused and had yet to recover from her shock. She had long known that the Netherworld treasure mirror was in the hands of Wu Dao and that this mirror was once the weapon of the Lord of Hell. But she did not expect the Netherworld treasure mirror to be such a deterrent in the infernal court. Wu Dao's original body was also a little surprised when he took out the Netherworld treasure mirror and saw the scene in front of him. These infernal court beings, including Hell Master Ku Quan, were not afraid of him but of the Netherworld treasure mirror in his hands. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the Netherworld treasure mirror had just appeared and killed the quasi-emperor level Hell Master Ku Quan. Hell Master Ku Quan had died too tragically. He had been turned into a pool of blood in the blink of an eye by the blood-red eye on the Netherworld treasure mirror. According to Hell Master Ku Quan, this blood-red eye was called the Netherworld pupil and should be a killer move evolved from the Netherworld treasure mirror. The Netherworld pupil was indeed terrifying. Wu Dao's original body even wondered if he could withstand the blood-red light if he was facing it. The conditions for activating the Netherworld pupil were too harsh, and it required a large amount of his own blood essence. Even with Wu Dao's powerful blood essence, he almost could not withstand it. Unless there was no other choice, Wu Dao's original body did not intend to activate the Netherworld treasure mirror and release the Netherworld pupil. To be precise, the activation of the Netherworld treasure mirror only required a large amount of blood essence. But Wu Dao's original body did not dare to let it wantonly devour the blood essence of other living beings. That way, the Netherworld treasure mirror would establish a connection and sense with other living beings and completely break away from his control. Although the Netherworld treasure mirror had been burned by the soul lamp once, it was obviously not completely subdued. Wu Dao's original body could vaguely sense that there was a powerful consciousness hidden in the depths of the Netherworld treasure mirror. However, this consciousness was wary and had already gone into hibernation. Wu Dao's main body held the Netherworld treasure mirror in his hand, thousands of thoughts running through his mind. At this time, Princess Yufei also came to her senses. She looked at the densely packed kneeling figures around her. She was the only one who was still standing in the same place. It was extremely dazzling. She hesitated for a moment, but still bent her knees and kowtowed to Wu Dao. Wu Dao's main body seemed to have sensed something and suddenly stretched out his arm. Without waiting for Princess Yufei to finish kneeling, he helped her up. He shook his head and said, "Princess Yufei, there's no need for this between you and me." Both of them came from planet Tianhuang and were old friends. Moreover, Princess Yufei had saved his life before. This action was completely normal for Wu Dao's main body. However, in the eyes of the other infernal realm beings, it seemed to have a deeper meaning. Both inside and outside of the Black Spring City, the strong warriors of the 8 hells gathered here. Led by Hell Master Ku Quan, they all knelt down. Only that beautiful woman could stand beside Wu Dao. What did this mean? In the infernal court, there was a strict hierarchy. Unless it was the closest person, no one was qualified to stand side by side with the Lord of Hell. Moreover, the way Wu Dao's main body addressed her just now made many strong warriors even more convinced of their speculation. Prison consort? Hell Master Ku Quan nodded secretly. It should be right. This group of infernal realm beings did not know that Wu Dao's main body was addressed as Princess Yufei and not prison consort. In the eyes of most infernal realm beings, Wu Dao's main body, who was holding the Netherworld treasure mirror, was the new Lord of Hell. This was because only the Lord of Hell could control and subdue the Netherworld treasure mirror. The Netherworld treasure mirror was once the most lethal weapon in the infernal court. Before the last age of laws, only the Lord of Hell could restrain it. The Netherworld treasure mirror was the symbol of the Lord of Hell. Now that someone had descended to the infernal court with the Netherworld treasure mirror, in the hearts of many infernal realm beings, this person was naturally the best candidate for the Lord of Hell. Of course, in the hearts of some infernal realm beings, they still had doubts and were unwilling to admit it. After all, Wu Dao's main body was from the middle world and belonged to a foreign race. He did not have the pure bloodline of the Nether clan, and he was not even a creature of the infernal court. Such a person wanted to become the Lord of Hell and rule over the 9 levels of hell? These thoughts flashed through the minds of some infernal realm beings, but these infernal realm beings did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. This person on the altar had only said 2 sentences since he descended. Then, 8 of the 9 Hell Masters were already dead. This person was even more terrifying than the former Lord of Hell. Now, only Hell Master Ku Quan was left. He was old, but he was kneeling on the altar and begging for mercy. Who else in Hell dared to resist? With the death of the 8 Hell Masters and the appearance of the Netherworld Treasure Mirror, the general trend was set. No one could shake the position of Wu Dao's main body. Get up. Wu Dao's main body's gaze fell on Hell Master Ku Quan as he said faintly. He did not intend to kill all of them. If the Infernal Court really had a way to leave, perhaps only the Hell Masters would know. Hell Master Ku Quan was overjoyed. He quickly kowtowed and said, "Thank you for sparing my life, Master. This old man will be loyal to you for the rest of my life. If I violate this oath, I will die." Hell Master Ku Quan was very decisive. He immediately made a Dao oath. He saw that Wu Dao's main body was decisive and ruthless. He was afraid that his existence would make Wu Dao's main body suspicious. That was why he made such a heavy oath to reassure Wu Dao's main body. After making the Dao oath, Hell Master Ku Quan looked at Princess Yufei. He bowed again and said respectfully, "Greetings, mistress." Princess Yufei's fair cheeks blushed. Her eyes were a little flustered. She subconsciously waved her hand, wanting to explain. Wu Dao's main body was worried about Qinglian's main body. He did not let the two continue the greetings. He asked directly, "Hell Master Ku Quan, I want to return to the middle world. Is there any way?" This, Hell Master Ku Quan looked troubled. He hesitated for a moment, and then said tentatively, "Master, you are now the Lord of Hell. Why do you still want to return to the middle world? The Infernal Court has just welcomed a new master. You have just become the Lord of Hell, and you want to leave in the blink of an eye. Without a master, we may fall into chaos." As he spoke, Hell Master Ku Quan's eyes glanced at Princess Yufei, who was beside Wu Dao's main body. There were some words that Hell Master Ku Quan did not say. But what he meant was that Princess Yufei's cultivation base was too low. If Wu Dao's main body left, there may be no problem for a short time. But as time passed, the Infernal Court would fall into chaos and strife again without a leader. At that time, even this Hell concubine would not be safe. Wu Dao's main body said faintly, "She will leave with me." Hearing this, Princess Yufei shook her head and said, "I will stay here." Princess Yufei lowered her head slightly. She did not look at Wu Dao's main body. She said softly, "If you want to come back in the future, come and see me." Chapter 27:13. Wu Dao himself was silent. He could roughly guess what Princess Yufei was thinking. Although Princess Yufei still retained the memories of her previous life, she was born from the cold spring of hell and had become a true netherkin. Only the special environment of the Infernal Court was suitable for Princess Yufei to cultivate. Moreover, even if Princess Yufei followed him back to the middle world, because of her identity as a netherkin, she would be incompatible with the environment of the middle world. In fact, in addition to the 2 guesses made by Wu Dao himself, Princess Yufei had another thought in her mind. Wu Dao himself had become the Lord of Hell. Although the Infernal Court was trapped in the last days, the living beings of Hell were endless and innumerable. This was an unimaginably huge force. Princess Yufei wanted to stay and help Wu Dao himself as much as possible to control these forces. If one day in the future Wu Dao himself really needed to borrow the power of the Infernal Court, or if he was in danger in the middle world, he could return to the Infernal Court at any time and take over the people of Hell. Of course, Princess Yufei knew that with her strength, it was not enough to suppress this group of Hell powerhouses. She could only temporarily rely on the fierce reputation of Wu Dao himself to barely maintain the situation. There should be no problem in the short term. If too much time passed and Wu Dao himself never returned, the Infernal Court would be leaderless. Princess Yufei said again, "Don't worry and leave. I have Hell Overlord Ku Quan here to protect me. There won't be any accidents." As she spoke, Princess Yufei glanced at Hell Overlord Ku Quan. Hell Overlord Ku Quan smiled bitterly in his heart, but he still nodded. Princess Yufei said telepathically, "What's more, I have already comprehended the fundamental of the Hell Sutra of the 9 Springs. With my identity as the mistress, no one will dare to stop me if I go to other hells and cultivate the other 8 hell sutras. Other than the former Lord of Hell, I may be the second person to master the complete Hell Sutra of the 9 springs. The next time you come back, I might have already cultivated to the Nether King level and caught up to you. When Wu Dao saw that Princess Yufei was determined to stay, he nodded and stopped trying to persuade her. Ku Quan. Wu Dao's true body looked at Hell Overlord Ku Quan again and said, "What method do you have to return to the medium world? Just tell me." When he asked the question just now, Prison Master Ku Quan's expression changed slightly, as if he had thought of something. Hell Master Ku Quan pondered for a while and said, "Normally, only the power of a great emperor can break the barrier between the infernal world and the medium-class world and leave at will. I really don't know how to return to the middle world. However, this old man knows of a monster that might be able to help Master." "Monster?" Wu Dao frowned slightly. Prison Overlord Ku Quan explained, "This monster is extremely ugly and ferocious. It belongs to the Yaksha clan and came from the ghost realm. I don't know how it came to our infernal court, but now it is imprisoned in Ku Quan prison." The eyes of Wu Dao's true body flickered. What Prison Overlord Ku Quan said just now revealed a lot of information. The Yaksha clan, the ghost realm. When Qinglian's true body helped Xie Qingcheng to fight for the City Lord Seal, she had seen traces of the Yaksha clan in the battlefield of Shura. There were also some writings and pictures that had been passed down. Wu Dao's true body also knew these memories clearly. According to the records of the battlefield of Shura, the Yaksha clan had 3 major branches: the Earth Yaksha, the Sky Yaksha, and the most powerful, mysterious, and rare Void Yaksha. There was no trace of the Yaksha clan in the medium-class world. In the 3,000 worlds, there was not a single world that belonged to the Yaksha clan. The Yaksha clan was extremely mysterious. It seemed that they had appeared in a turmoil and then disappeared. Where was the ghost realm that Prison Overlord Ku Quan mentioned just now? In the medium-class world, there was no world called the ghost realm. Let's go and have a look. Wu Dao's true body gestured for Prison Overlord Ku Quan to lead the way. At the same time, he looked at Tang Kong and said, "Accompany Princess Yufei to the other 8 hells. Let her browse the other 8 hells." Wu Dao's true body did not conceal his voice when he said this, and it spread throughout the city. All of the infernal realm creatures heard it clearly. Under the intimidation of the martial Dao true body, none of the infernal realm creatures dared to object. After a short pause, Wu Dao's true body sent a message to Princess Yufei with his divine consciousness. "Remember to bring back some Hell's Black Spring." "Okay." Princess Yufei nodded. The 4 of them split up. Prison Overlord Ku Quan led Wu Dao's true body to the Bitter Spring prison, while Tang Kong accompanied Princess Yufei to the other 8 hells. The experts of Hell in the Black Spring prison also left. With the help of the teleportation array in the city, Wu Dao's true body and Prison Overlord Ku Quan quickly arrived at the Bitter Spring Palace. Just as Wu Dao's true body stepped into the palace, a thought flashed through his mind. He suddenly asked, "The ghost realm you mentioned, is it one of the 6 paths?" Prison Overlord Ku Quan said, "The hungry ghost realm of the 6 paths is the ghost realm." Just as expected, Wu Dao's true body just realized that since the hell realm of the 6 paths was a realm that coexisted with the medium-class world, the hungry ghost realm of the 6 paths should be the same. Now it seemed that the hungry ghost realm, which was also the ghost realm, should coexist with the hell realm and the medium-class world. "You said the Yaksha tribe came from the ghost realm?" Wu Dao's true body asked as the 2 walked toward the Bitter Spring prison. Prison Overlord Ku Quan replied, "Yes. In fact, the Yaksha tribe is the ghost race." Wu Dao's true body recalled the records about Yaksha. Yaksha was a Sanskrit word that could be translated as swift ghosts. They could bite ghosts and were agile. In fact, this record had already revealed the origin of the Yaksha tribe. Wu Dao's true body asked again, "As far as I know, there are 3 major branches of the Yaksha tribe. Which branch does this prison belong to?" "It belongs to the Void Yaksha." Prison Overlord Ku Quan said, "The Void Yaksha is extremely rare. They are the kings of the Yaksha tribe. They are extremely strong and agile. They can even fly into the sky and burrow into the ground, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Moreover, this void yaksha is a ghost king of the complete grotto heaven realm. Oh! Wu Dao's true body's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He did not expect to have the opportunity to see a living yaksha in the hell realm. Moreover, it was a void yaksha of the ghost king level. Prison overlord Ku Quan said, "To be honest, master, although my cultivation and combat strength are higher than his, this void yaksha is extremely powerful. If I were in my peak state, I might not be able to capture him alive." A void yaksha of the complete grotto heaven realm could escape from the suppression of a quasi-emperor. In that case, the void yaksha was indeed extraordinary. Prison overlord Ku Quan said, "I was able to capture him alive because, first of all, when he came to the hell realm, he was already covered in wounds and his aura was weak. Second of all, the bitter spring prison has a great treasure that can restrain him." Wu Dao's true body said, "It's the bitter spring of hell, right?" Prison overlord Ku Quan nodded with a smile. Each of the 9 springs of hell had different powers. It was clearly recorded in the ancient book that the bitter spring of hell could restrain the ghost race and cause great harm to them. Chapter 27:14. Soon, they arrived at Ku Quan's palace. Ku Quan prison was built next to Hell's bitter spring. Surrounded by the bitter spring, it formed a forbidden area. Prison Master Ku Quan opened the prison and led Wu Dao's original body down to the depths of the underground. Then, they walked all the way and finally arrived at the secret chamber in the deepest part of the prison. Prison Master Ku Quan had imprisoned this void yaksha here with such caution. It was obvious that he valued this void yaksha very much. Standing outside the secret room, Prison Master Ku Quan smiled and said, "To be honest, Master, I didn't kill him. Instead, I kept him in here because I valued his abilities. I wanted him to submit to me. Unfortunately, this monster is too stubborn. After being imprisoned by me for so many years, he still refuses to submit. This monster is ugly and has a bad temper. Master, be careful later." Wu Dao's original body was expressionless and didn't say a word. Prison Master Ku Quan carefully opened the secret chamber. It was dark and gloomy inside, and there was a disgusting smell of rotten flesh. Suddenly, in the dark depths of the secret chamber, a green flame lit up, illuminating an ugly and ferocious face. A pair of bulging and bloodshot eyes were staring fiercely at the 2 people at the entrance of the secret chamber. Prison Master Ku Quan entered the secret chamber first and performed a spell to light up the secret chamber. The body of this void yaksha was revealed from the darkness. This void yaksha was tall and big, at least 10 meters tall. He was half a body taller than Wu Dao's original body. Now, his limbs were all locked by chains and nailed to the walls of the secret chamber. Wu Dao's original body could see clearly that the parts of this void yaksha that were locked by the chains were rotten and emitting a foul smell. For example, under the rotting flesh on his wrists and ankles, one could even see the thick bones inside. The chains that bound this void yaksha clearly contained some sort of special power. If he wasn't mistaken, these chains were forged from the bitter spring of hell. It was precisely because of this that he was able to trap the void yaksha here. This void yaksha's condition was very bad, and his aura was weak. Even so, when he saw Wu Dao's original body, he still glared angrily, revealing his ferocious appearance. Wu Dao's main body stepped forward and approached the void yaksha. Prison Master Ku Quan hurriedly followed. This void yaksha was indeed ugly and ferocious. It had greenish-black skin and a hump-shaped head. Its hair was even burning with green flames. The first green flame that lit up in the secret room came from the void yaksha's head. This void yaksha was the kind of face that would strike fear into people's hearts at first glance. It was possible for ordinary people to be scared out of their wits. The void yaksha, which had been calm all this while, suddenly stretched its neck and stretched forward. It let out a low roar at Wu Dao's true body. The void yaksha opened its mouth wide, revealing its crisscrossing sharp teeth that flickered with a cold light. It was only inches away from Wu Dao's face. The chains on the 4 walls rattled violently. If it weren't for these chains, the Void Yaksha might have directly pounced on Wu Dao's body. When such a ferocious and terrifying face suddenly pounced, anyone would instinctively dodge and retreat. However, Wu Dao's true body didn't move at all. He didn't even blink. His eyes were deep. Wu Dao's true body's calmness seemed to have surprised the Void Yaksha. "Bastard, how dare you!" Prison Master Ku Quan reacted and was furious. He was afraid that Wu Dao's true body would vent his anger on him. He hurriedly cast a spell and tightened the chains around him. The chains on the Void Yaksha's body tightened again. The iron hoop was even stuck in the bones. The power of the Ku Quan was not only corroding the Void Yaksha's bones. This kind of intense pain made the Void Yaksha's huge body tremble continuously. However, he still didn't make a sound. He just gritted his teeth and endured it. Yao Yao Literature Network. Wu Dao's true body slightly raised his hand and signaled Prison Master Ku Quan to stop. Prison Master Ku Quan understood. He temporarily loosened the chains and put away the punishment. Wu Dao's true body looked at the Void Yaksha in front of him and said indifferently, "This is the first time we met. I don't blame you. Don't let me see you again." Wu Dao's true body wanted to get some important information from this Void Yaksha. He didn't want to waste more time with him. This Void Yaksha's temperament was so fierce and unyielding. If he used soul searching on him, it would most likely end in failure. Hearing Wu Dao's threat, a trace of disdain flashed in the Void Yaksha's eyes. He could smell that the purple-robed man in front of him was just an ordinary human. The weak human had always been his food. Even if there were some humans who had cultivated some powerful bloodlines and had many divine abilities and secret arts, in his eyes, they were nothing but a piece of cake. Prison Master Ku Quan scolded, "This is the Lord of Hell, the current Lord of Hell. You bastard, you'd better behave." Hearing this, the Void Yaksha made a strange sound. He looked at Wu Dao's true body in surprise, as if he couldn't believe it. A human had become the Lord of Hell? The old man in front of him was a quasi-emperor expert, and also the Prison Master Ku Quan. If these words didn't come from his mouth, the Void Yaksha would only take it as a joke. But then, the Void Yaksha suddenly grinned, his face full of sarcasm. He didn't expect that the infernal court had fallen to such a point that a human could become the Lord of Hell. While the Void Yaksha was thinking this, he suddenly heard the human in front of him speak. "I'm here to ask you something. If you can give me a satisfactory answer, I can restore your freedom." Hearing this, a light suddenly flashed in the Void Yaksha's eyes. Restore freedom. These 4 words were too tempting for him. He had been imprisoned here for many years. Although he had never submitted to the Prison Master Ku Quan, he had always wanted to leave this place and restore his freedom. "Ask away," the Void Yaksha said. His voice was extremely unpleasant, like a stone scratching on iron. "I want to go to the medium-class world. Is there any way?" Wu Dao's true body asked. The Void Yaksha was stunned, as if he didn't expect Wu Dao's true body to have such an idea. But soon he shook his head and said, "There's no way." Wu Dao's true body frowned slightly. After a pause, Wu Dao's true body asked again, "How did you come to the infernal court from the ghost realm?" 6. The Void Yaksha slowly said the 2 words. At the same time, a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Chapter 27:15. Hearing the words Nether River, Ku Quan seemed to be a little surprised. He fell into deep thought and murmured, "Is there really a Nether River?" "What do you know?" Wu Dao asked. Hell Master Ku Quan explained, "It said that the Lord of Hell once mentioned the Nether River by accident, but later on, he forbade anyone from writing it down. According to the Lord of Hell, the source of the 9 springs of hell is actually the Nether River." Hearing this, Wu Dao's heart skipped a beat. Back then, when he saw the cold spring of hell, a thought flashed through his mind. The formation of the infernal court was largely due to the existence of the 9 springs of hell. The 9 springs of hell provided a large amount of nether chi, which allowed the creatures of hell to cultivate in this world. And as long as there was a spring, there must be a spring source. The 9 springs of hell had such a powerful force, and each had different powers. What was the source of the 9 springs of hell, and where was it? And now Wu Dao's body heard an answer from Ku Quan. The Nether River. Wu Dao's body pondered. In other words, the Nether River divided into 9 different rivers and flowed into the infernal court, forming the 9 springs of hell today. Ku Quan nodded. Heh. The void yaksha next to him suddenly sneered. His laughter was full of disdain and contempt. What are you laughing at? Ku Quan's face darkened as he scolded. The void yaksha grinned. So the Lord of Hell doesn't even know about the Nether River? Ha! As soon as his laughter fell, the void yaksha continued, the Nether River's existence is not just the 9 springs of hell. The total source of the 9 springs of hell is just a branch of the Nether River. There is another branch of the Nether River that flows into the ghost realm, which is also the river of life of the ghost realm. Hearing this, Wu Dao's body and Ku Quan's body were shocked. The 9 springs of hell was just a branch of the Nether River. And the other branch of the Nether River flowed into the ghost realm. The void yaksha said proudly, all of us of the ghost clan were born in this river of life by Lady Ghost Mother. Lady Ghost Mother? Wu Dao narrowed his eyes slightly. Seeing the confusion on Wu Dao's face, Prison Master Ku Quan said to Wu Dao through his soul consciousness, it is said that the Lord of the Ghost Realm is called Brahma Ghost Mother. Wu Dao nodded. This meant that the Brahma Ghost Mother should be on the same level as the Lord of Hell. In the 9 springs of hell, a special life form like the Nether race was born. In the ghost realm, there was a river of life that nurtured the ghost clan and other strange creatures. Whether it was the 9 springs of hell or the river of life in the ghost realm, they were all just tributaries of the river Styx. What kind of power was hidden in the entire Nether River? No wonder even this void yaksha at the level of a ghost king felt fear and apprehension at the mention of the Nether River. And where was this Nether River? How did it form? Wu Dao's true body suddenly felt as if he had come into contact with another world. It was vast and mysterious, filled with endless unknowns. It was completely different from the dimensional realm. The infernal realm was probably just the tip of the iceberg. You haven't told me how you came to the infernal court. Hellmaster Ku Quan asked. This memory seemed to be extremely painful for the void yaksha. 33 He was silent for a while before he slowly said, I committed a heinous crime in the ghost realm and was banished to the river Styx by Lord Ghost Mother to fend for myself. I couldn't resist the power of the river Styx at all. However, by accident, I was swept away by a countercurrent of the river Styx and mistakenly entered another tributary of the river Styx. After a long time of drifting, I finally came to the 9 springs of hell. Then, under the push of the 9 springs of hell, I got out of the Ku Quan and saw the light of day again. Wu Dao's true body suddenly understood. If the 9 springs of hell and the river of life in the ghost realm had the same source, then theoretically, it was possible for the 2 worlds to be connected. However, the difficulty of this was too great. Otherwise, in all these years, only one void yaksha had drifted over by accident. But even if he knew this, it was useless for him to leave the infernal court and return to the middle world. Wu Dao's true body had a thought and suddenly asked, You were born in the ghost realm. Is there any way to go to the middle world in the ghost realm? The void yaksha's eyes flickered as if he had thought of something, but he didn't say anything. Wu Dao's true body's eyes were like torches as he caught the strange expression that flashed across the void yaksha's face. The void yaksha said, If you are in the ghost realm, perhaps you can descend to the middle world through a ritual. Wu Dao's true body nodded slightly. This was the only way he had heard of to go to the middle world so far. No matter what, he had to give it a try. In that case, let's go to the ghost realm first. Wu Dao's true body had already made up his mind. The void yaksha shook his head and curled his lips. It was a complete coincidence that I was able to come to the infernal court. If you want to follow the 9 springs of hell, go against the current, enter the Nether River, and then find the tributary of the Nether River to enter the ghost realm through the river of life, it's impossible. It's not that I want to discourage you, but with your human bloodline and physical body, once you enter the Nether River, you will die in it. There's no way you can come back alive, let alone find the river of life through a long period of drifting and enter the ghost realm. Wu Dao's true body was silent. In fact, he knew in his heart that this method, not to mention the degree of danger, the success rate was indeed very low. But no matter what, he had to give it a try. Let him go. Wu Dao's true body's expression changed as he motioned for Ku Quan to remove the chain on the void yaksha. Ku Quan whispered, "This beast has a rebellious temperament and refuses to be disciplined. The chain on him is still intact. How about I hand the other end of the chain to you?" Ku Quan was not worried that Wu Dao's true body could not subdue the void yaksha. However, with the void yaksha's means, he could appear and disappear unpredictably. If he wanted to escape, perhaps no one could suppress him. No need. Wu Dao's true body waved his hand with a calm expression. Ku Quan hesitated for a moment, but he still followed the arrangement of Wu Dao's true body. He cast a spell and removed the chain on the void yaksha one by one. After regaining his freedom, a hint of excitement flashed in the depths of the void yaksha's eyes. "Can you still walk?" Wu Dao's true body asked. Chapter 27:16. The three quickly came to the side of the hell spring. Wu Dao's original body looked at the slowly surging spring water in the middle of the pool, his eyes deep. Ku Quan advised, "Master, the power of the hell spring is not to be underestimated. Not only can it suppress the ghost clan, but it can also cause great damage to ordinary creatures." If the hell spring was already so powerful, what more the legendary Nether River at the end of the hell spring? But now, if he wanted to return to the medium-class world, he had no other choice but to take the risk. Moreover, Wu Dao's original body was quite interested in the Nether River. If he guessed correctly, the creatures in the Infernal Court were called the Nether Clan because of the Nether River. "Wait for me here. I'll go down and check it out," Wu Dao's original body said, then jumped into the middle of the hell spring. His body sank and disappeared. Hee hee. The void yaksha let out a strange laugh and muttered, "This person actually dared to go down. I'm afraid he won't be able to come back this time." Ku Quan prison master was silent, standing beside the spring and waiting quietly. After Wu Dao's original body entered the hell spring, not only did he have to resist the impact of the spring water, but he also had to resist the strange power contained in the hell spring. Wu Dao's original body activated his blood qi, and the roar of waves came from his body as he continued to sink. But when the spring water rose, Wu Dao's original body was going against the flow. As he went deeper, the resistance of the spring water, the surrounding pressure, and the strange power in the hell spring became stronger and stronger. Wu Dao's original body stabilized his body, and the hell scripture of the 9 Springs Bitter Spring chapter flashed in his mind. He had just read this scripture once. However, he had already comprehended the fundamental of the hell scripture of the 9 Springs, so it was not too difficult for him to comprehend the hell scripture of the Bitter Spring chapter. Surrounded by the hell spring, it became much easier to sense the power contained in the hell spring according to the hell scripture of the Bitter Spring. Not long after, as Wu Dao's original body continued to comprehend the hell spring chapter, the hell spring became less and less of an obstacle to him. Wu Dao's original body continued to sink. Even in the depths of the hell spring, his eyes were still burning with 2 purple flames, reflecting everything around him and maintaining his vision. There was no sense of direction in the bitter springs of hell. Wu Dao's true body just followed the direction of the spring water, constantly moving against the current, sometimes sinking, sometimes moving forward. After an unknown period of time, the scene before the eyes of Wu Dao's main body suddenly opened up, and he saw an extremely shocking scene. At the end of his vision, 8 different rivers vaguely appeared. They were like the Milky Way, flowing slowly across the endless void and emitting completely different auras. The source of the 8 rivers led to another dark and gloomy river that stretched as far as the eye could see. If Wu Dao's original body was included in the bitter spring of hell, it corresponded to the number of 9 springs. In other words, the dark and gloomy river ahead was the legendary Nether River. Before he even got close to the Nether River, Wu Dao's main body felt an enormous pressure just by looking at the dark river in the distance. It was as if every drop of water from the Nether River contained unparalleled power that could destroy the world and shatter the heavens. Wu Dao's main body continued to move against the current. As he got closer to the Nether River, the pressure in front of him increased, Finally, Wu Dao's main body came to the end of the bitter springs of hell and stopped. As long as he took half a step forward, he would be able to enter the Nether River. Wu Dao's main body stood in front of the Nether River and felt incomparably small. His strength seemed to be unable to withstand a single blow in front of this Nether River. This feeling was something that he had never felt even when facing the divine tree of creation back then. Wu Dao's main body hesitated for a moment, but still entered the Nether River. The Nether River was bone-chillingly cold. Compared to the power of the 9 springs of hell, it was like heaven and earth. Fast. Wu Dao's main body forcibly activated Wu Dao's purgatory to resist the power of the Nether River. However, the water of the Nether River kept surging and washing away, and Wu Dao's purgatory was also on the verge of collapse. He wanted to swim upwards, break through the surface of the Nether River, and reach the top of the Nether River. However, it was as if there were countless large hands in the Nether River that kept pulling his body, causing him to sink continuously. He was already extremely lucky to be able to maintain his figure in the Nether River and not sink to the bottom of the river, let alone break through the surface of the water. Most importantly, the water of the Nether River was mighty and mighty, pushing him downstream. According to the Void Yaksha, he came to the 9 springs of hell by following the flow of the Nether River. And if he wanted to go to the Ghost Realm, he had to go against the flow of the Nether River. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to do so. Wu Dao's main body did not stay in the Nether River for long. He hurriedly retreated and returned to the 9 springs of hell. No. If Wu Dao's main body allowed the Nether River to drive him downstream, he did not know where he would go. Moreover, with his current physical body, bloodline, and cultivation realm, he could not last long in the Nether River. After pondering for a while, Wu Dao's main body could only return the way he came. This time, he went downstream in the bitter spring of hell at a much faster speed. Before long, he had already reached the mouth of the bitter spring. Wu Dao's main body broke out of the water and returned to the bitter spring palace, panting slightly. Seeing Wu Dao's main body return alive, the Void Yaksha's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He smelled a trace of the unique scent of the Nether River on Wu Dao's main body. In other words, this person had really entered the Nether River. This method won't work. Wu Dao's main body stared at the Void Yaksha and said slowly. The Void Yaksha grinned and shrugged. After a pause, the Void Yaksha's bulging eyes rolled and suddenly said, "There is another way to go to the Ghost Realm through the Nether World." In the Nether World, through the 6 paths of reincarnation? Wu Dao's main body was moved and asked. The Void Yaksha nodded. Princess Yufei once mentioned something about the Nether World to him. According to Princess Yufei, the Nether World was independent of the 6 paths, but connected to the 6 paths. After all living beings died, their souls escaped into the Nether World and entered the 6 paths of reincarnation. Wu Dao's main body asked again, how to go to the Nether World? The souls in the Nether World could escape into the Infernal World, one of the 6 paths. But the creatures of the Infernal World could not enter the Nether World. Unless they were like the Lord of Hell, who had the power of the Great Emperor and could ignore the rules and break the barrier between the 2 worlds at will. The Void Yaksha said, as far as I know, there are some connections and passages between the Infernal World and the Nether World. Wu Dao's main body turned and looked at Prison Master Ku Quan beside him. Prison Master Ku Quan had never mentioned this to him. Prison Master Ku Quan quickly explained, Master, there are indeed 2 passages between the Nether World and the Infernal World, but there are still rules and barriers at the connection. Even I can't break them. Chapter 27:17. Hell Overlord Ku Quan continued, Master, you should have heard that there is a river called Acheron in the underworld. The water of Acheron inside can wash away the memories of a living soul's past life. In fact, the Acheron of the underworld is the same as the Acheron of the underworld. Wu Dao nodded secretly. When he read about the Acheron of the underworld, he thought of some legends about Meng Po's soup and the road of Acheron in the underworld. Now it was confirmed. The source of Acheron in the underworld was the water of Acheron in the underworld. Is there another passage? Wu Dao asked. Hell Overlord Ku Quan said, "The other is the Black Spring prison of the first hell. The Black Spring flows down and leads to the core of the underworld, the Fengdu Mountain." Wu Dao said, "So, in theory, we can reach the underworld by following the Acheron of the underworld or the Black Spring of the underworld?" "Indeed." Hell Overlord Ku Quan smiled bitterly and said, "However, there is still a barrier at the junction of these two passages that is difficult to break." Wu Dao pondered and did not say anything. Since the Acheron of the Black Spring and the Black Spring of the underworld were connected to the underworld, even if there was a barrier at the junction, it must be relatively weak. Perhaps there was a chance to try. "Let's try these two passages." Wu Dao was worried about Qinglian's real body, so he did not hesitate and prepared to leave immediately. Void Yaksha suddenly said, "I advise you not to try the passage of the Black Spring of the underworld. The other end of the Black Spring of the underworld leads to the Fengdu Mountain. The Emperor of Fengdu, the Lord of the underworld, is there. Even if we can rush over, it is tantamount to suicide." "He is right." Hell Overlord Ku Quan also nodded and said, "This way, after all, is against the rules between the two worlds. Once discovered, it may lead to a fatal disaster. If the Black Spring of the underworld did not work, only the Acheron of the underworld was left." Wu Dao took the Void Yaksha with him and said goodbye to Princess Yufei before heading to the Acheron realm. He was ready to go down the Acheron of the underworld. "I know very little about the underworld, the ghost realm, and the martial way. Even if he could leave the underworld, it was only the first step. If he wanted to return to the middle world successfully, the Void Yaksha of the underworld." This Void Yaksha's bloodline was indeed. In less than 2 hours, the injuries on the Void Yaksha's wrists and ankles had mostly healed, and large patches of flesh and blood had grown. The Void Yaksha's use. "And Yu Quan of the underworld." "Of the underworld." "Him." "Yaksha." Nobody knew when he would come back. The underworld had no master. It was difficult to rely on Princess Yufei alone. Only the help of Hell Overlord Ku Quan, who was at the quasi-emperor level, could stabilize the situation. The two of them landed in the Acheron Palace and rushed in the direction of the Acheron of the underworld. The Void Yaksha followed behind Wu Dao. He rolled his eyes, and a fierce look appeared between his brows. His eyes were cold. Hell Overlord Ku Quan was no longer here. Now was his best chance to escape. Although he had not recovered to his peak state, it was enough to deal with a human. Even if he could not defeat him, he could escape with his means. From now on, no one in the world could trap him. Although he could not return to the ghost realm, it was not bad to roam freely in the underworld. Wu Dao did not look back. He kept his back to the Void Yaksha, as if he was not on guard at all. But in reality, when the Void Yaksha had just shown hostility towards him, his spiritual perception had already reacted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, the martial Dao body was calm in his heart and did not care. This Void Yaksha had been imprisoned by Hell Overlord Ku Quan for so many years and suffered all kinds of torture. There was a fire in his heart. How could he be willing to be controlled by others? The two of them, one in front and one behind, were about to step into Acheron Palace when the Void Yaksha attacked. This Void Yaksha did not hold back. He directly released a powerful chi and blood. The long hair on the top of his head burned. The muscles all over his body were green and black, and he emitted a terrifying and violent aura. The Void Yaksha reached out with both hands and grabbed at the neck of the martial Dao body. The nails on his palms slowly stretched out. They were incomparably sharp and shone with a cold light. They could even penetrate most divine weapons. Wu Dao did not look back. He just waved his sleeves behind him. A mist sprayed out from his sleeve and enveloped the Void Yaksha. Ah! The moment the mist fell, the Void Yaksha let out a tragic cry. Green smoke billowed from his body and his flesh rotted with sizzling sounds. "Why, you actually hid the bitter spring water." The Void Yaksha was shocked and furious. Previously, Wu Dao's true body followed the bitter spring of hell and sank to the Nether River. When he returned, he collected some bitter spring water. He expected that the Void Yaksha would do this. The bitter spring water was to make this Void Yaksha suffer a little. When the void yaksha saw that Wu Dao's true body had the bitter spring water, he hurriedly changed his mind and shouted, "Appear and disappear unpredictably." He did not dare to stay. He soared into the air and left a ghostly shadow. His true body disappeared and he wanted to escape this place. Wu Dao's true body moved his spirit consciousness and his hands formed hand seals. A scarlet flame burst out from his body and spread, forming a domain that enveloped the void yaksha. Sush. Within this domain, flames soared into the sky and raged. In the blink of an eye, the void yaksha was engulfed in a sea of fire. "You want to burn me?" When the void yaksha saw Wu Dao's true body release a fire-type mystic art, he was not shocked. Instead, he was delighted. He directly summoned his perfected grotto heaven that was filled with ghostly qi. He laughed loudly and said, "My ghost race is not afraid of." Before the void yaksha could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. The void yaksha's eyes widened in shock. What kind of flame is this? Amidst the raging flames, the perfected grotto heaven that he had just released could not hold on any longer. In just a few breaths of time, his perfected grotto heaven had already been burned with cracks and could collapse at any moment. Only now did the void yaksha realize that he had encountered a tough opponent. How is this possible? What technique does this person cultivate? The void yaksha's mind was in chaos. He did not have time to think and turned to escape. However, there was a border barrier in the Wu Dao purgatory that was condensed by countless runes of Wu Dao's technique. It was not something that this void yaksha could leave just because he wanted to. Boom! The void yaksha collided with the border of the Wu Dao purgatory with a loud bang. His skin was charred black as he fell to the ground and returned to the purgatory. "I told you, don't let me see it a second time." Right then, the voice of Wu Dao's true body sounded slowly in the raging flames. The void yaksha turned around and saw a purple-robed figure wearing a silver mask. His eyes were like torches as he walked over slowly while stepping on the flames. The barrier of laws in front of them shook slightly, and countless lights flickered on it, dissolving and devouring the power of Wu Dao's main body's punch. When the void yaksha saw this scene, he was secretly speechless. Only then did he realize that this human didn't use his full strength when fighting with him just now. Just now, this person's punch could actually shake the barrier of laws in front of them. This kind of power was infinitely close to the arch realm. Wu Dao's main body recovered slightly and stepped forward again. The domain in his body faintly appeared, and together with the bloodline phenomenon, he lifted the hell-suppressing cauldron and smashed it down on the barrier of laws in front of him without holding back. Bang! Wu Dao's main body's attack seemed to have reached the limit of the barrier of laws. An even more blazing brilliance spread out from it to dissolve and devour the power of this attack. Under the gaze of the void yaksha, a large part of the barrier of laws was clearly caved in. The void yaksha sucked in a breath and swallowed a lot of Hell Akron's water. Just now, that attack had almost pierced through the barrier of laws. It still doesn't work. Wu Dao's main body shook his head slightly. His gaze turned to the void yaksha beside him. This void yaksha was also extremely smart. He instantly understood the intentions of Wu Dao's main body. He took a few steps forward and stood side by side with Wu Dao's main body. The two of them attacked at the same time and once again attacked the barrier of laws. Light flickered, and the power of the two was like a stone sinking into the sea, once again dissolved by the laws of the realm. Wu Dao's main body vaguely realized that unless one's strength rose to a certain level, no matter how many people came, they wouldn't be able to shake the barrier of laws in front of them. If even Hell Akron's path couldn't be taken, then it was likely that they wouldn't be able to leave Hell. Not to mention returning to the medium-class realm in the end. The void yaksha shrugged and spread out its huge ghost hand, indicating that it was powerless. Wu Dao's main body's heart skipped a beat and suddenly took out the netherworld mirror from Yuanwo Grotto Heaven. When the void yaksha saw this dark ancient mirror, a trace of interest arose. He subconsciously stretched out his fingertip, wanting to touch it. Suddenly, a strange blood-red light appeared on the surface of the ancient mirror. The void yaksha's expression changed drastically, as if he recognized the origin of the netherworld mirror. His body trembled as he hurriedly retracted his hand. He looked at Wu Dao's main body with even more fear in his eyes. He finally realized why this human could become the Lord of Hell of the 9 Great Hells. The netherworld mirror had once devoured a large amount of blood essence. After killing Hell Lord Black Spring, the blood-red light on the surface of the mirror had obviously dimmed a lot. Chapter 2720. Wu Dao's original body looked back at the closed hole in the interface barrier behind him, and his heart still wavered. He didn't know how long it would take for him to come back after leaving the infernal realm. In fact, there was nothing in the infernal realm that made him reluctant to leave, including the identity of the Lord of Hell. But there was still an old friend of Heaven Wasteland over there. At this moment, the Void Yaksha said to him, "There are some special things in the underworld, we must not expose ourselves, or we will definitely be hunted down by the creatures of the underworld." The two of them had broken the barrier between the two worlds through the Hell Acheron, which had already violated the rules of the interface. It was like the Void Yaksha had fallen into the infernal realm and was directly imprisoned by the Bitter Spring Hell Lord. How do you distinguish between the creatures of the underworld? Wu Dao's original body asked. The Void Yaksha said, "You probably don't need to disguise yourself. The aura on your body is always unfathomable and difficult to detect. I have to wear a cloak." There is a huge difference between the creatures of the underworld and other creatures. The creatures of the underworld are the most unique. They are creatures without flesh and blood. Oh! Wu Dao's original body was slightly surprised and asked, "Without flesh and blood, can they live normally in the underworld?" "Of course." The Void Yaksha said, "These creatures of the underworld have long had a complete cultivation system, and can get rid of their dependence on flesh and blood. Moreover, in the underworld, any creature with flesh and blood, no matter how powerful their bloodline is, will be suppressed and sealed." Wu Dao's original body felt a little in the Hell Acheron and nodded secretly. As expected, after passing through the interface barrier, there was obviously a strange power in his bloodline. No matter how he activated his bloodline, it was difficult to break free. The Void Yaksha added, "Also, don't underestimate these little ghosts of the underworld. If we encounter a ghost king of the same level, we have to be careful." Wu Dao's original body frowned and asked, "The creatures of the underworld belong to the ghost race, and the ghost world also belong to the ghost race." The Void Yaksha explained, "Although we are collectively known as the ghost race, in reality, we are very different from the ghost race of the underworld. To be precise, we are the Yaksha clan. We separated from the ghost clan and were born in the ghost realm's river of life. We have already given birth to flesh and blood. As for the little ghosts, the big ghosts, and even the ghost kings and ghost emperors in the underworld, they are all in the form of souls. Although they had already arrived in the underworld, the two of them still hid at the bottom of the Acheron River in the underworld in order to conceal their tracks. They flowed along the river and communicated with their divine sense." The Void Yaksha continued, "For example, the ghosts of hell can directly attack our primordial spirits. If we're not careful, we'll be severely injured. When one's primordial spirit is destroyed, no matter how powerful one's bloodline and physical body is, it's just an empty shell." Wu Dao's main body remained silent. There were all sorts of strange things in the 3,000 worlds. Who would have thought that there would be such a special group of life forms in the underworld? They had already broken free from the shackles of flesh and blood and had their own unique cultivation system. Such a world indeed had the qualifications to be independent of the medium-class world. In other words, Qinglian's true body had already perished. In the end, he was still a step too late. Wu Dao's main body's face was as dark as water and his eyes were filled with killing intent. At this moment, his heart skipped a beat. He suddenly thought of Princess Yufei's experience and quickly realized that as long as he could ensure that the memories of Qinglian's true body were not destroyed and not wiped out by Hell Acheron, Qinglian's true body would not truly perish. Qinglian's true body could completely reincarnate with her memories. At the thought of this, Wu Dao's main body waved his sleeve and swept up the Void Yaksha beside him. He directly broke through the void in front of him and flashed in. He had to gather the two true bodies before Qinglian's true body was wiped out by Hell Acheron. What are you doing? The Void Yaksha's expression changed drastically. Wu Dao's main body broke through the void of the underworld and teleported. It would definitely alarm the experts in the underworld. The Void Yaksha's bloodline was indeed powerful. Along the way, the teeth in the Void Yaksha's mouth had already grown back and its speech had returned to normal. And souls that escaped into the underworld would be baptized by Acheron of Hell. They would forget their memories of their previous lives and enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. Therefore, the underworld had always been a mysterious and unknown place to the living beings of the 3 realms. Wu Dao's true body pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he took out an ancient bronze lamp from his storage bag. What is this? The Void Yaksha looked at the ancient bronze lamp curiously and instinctively reached out to touch it. Don't touch it if you don't want to die. Wu Dao's true body said. The Void Yaksha curled his lips and resentfully retracted his hand. Wu Dao's true body released his martial soul fire and lit the soul lamp. The soul lamp burned and released a golden halo. The golden flame flickered slightly and then tilted in a direction. Over there. Wu Dao's true body pointed in the direction of the flame. Soul lamps could absorb souls and refine them into lamp oil to replenish one's own. And the guidance of the soul lamp's flame was very likely to be the direction where the soul power was the strongest. At this moment, a violent tremor came from the spatial tunnel. An enormous and terrifying pressure enveloped them. The 3 of them were traveling through the spatial tunnel, but they were still discovered. It was clear that the intruders' methods were powerful. Then, an extremely sharp light cut open the spatial tunnel and cut it in 2, cutting off the path of Wu Dao's true body and the other 2. I am judge of life and death, Cui, a voice came. Wu Dao's true body didn't wait for him to finish. He gently blew at the golden flame of the soul lamp. A spark flew out of the spatial tunnel. A shrill scream came from outside. Immediately after, the terrifying pressure disappeared without a trace. The Void Yaksha opened his mouth wide and said, Could it be one of the 4 judges of life and death, Lord Cui? The 4 judges of life and death are all ruthless people. Wu Dao's true body's expression didn't change, as if he had done something insignificant. This time, the way the Void Yaksha looked at the soul lamp had changed. Just a spark could seriously injure the 4 judges of hell and force them to retreat. What was the origin of this ancient copper lamp? The Void Yaksha's eyes flashed with excitement. He whispered, With this treasure, as long as we don't alarm the Lord of Hell, we can do whatever we want in hell. Wu Dao's true body was silent. The soul lamp was his greatest reliance in hell. But hell was too mysterious. For him, there were countless unknowns. After all, the soul lamp was just an external object. His cultivation realm was equivalent to an immortal king. With this soul lamp, he didn't know what his chances of winning against a powerhouse like the Ghost Emperor were. Moreover, Wu Dao's true body had a premonition that this soul lamp was most likely related to hell. Calf-holding mountain. This ball of liquor mist emitted a strong wine fragrance and contained an incomparably powerful force that enveloped the soul lamp's flame. Under the shroud of this fog, the soul lamp seemed to be unable to withstand it. The flame began to shrink continuously, and the surrounding golden halo also began to shrink. The 4 Ghost Emperors' eyes lit up. They hurriedly pressed forward, getting closer and closer to Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body narrowed his eyes and looked at Ghost Emperor Yang Yun, who was not far away. Among the 5 Ghost Emperors, this person's cultivation was the strongest and unfathomable. He had to get rid of this person to be able to escape the current crisis. In the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's true body stomped on the void and burst forth with an incomparably powerful force. He rushed over and directly shattered the void, plowing a huge crack. With just a step, Wu Dao's true body arrived in front of Ghost Emperor Yang Yun. Although he was facing an Imperial Emperor expert, Wu Dao's true body, who was at the Grotto Heaven level, still emitted a monstrous aura, wanting to trample the Ghost Emperor under his feet. Wu Dao's true body raised the soul lamp and burned it towards Ghost Emperor Yang Yun. Chapter 27-26. Ghost Emperor Yang Yun's expression changed. This change was not because of Wu Dao's attack, but because of another reason. Ghost Emperor Yang Yun stared at the footwork that Wu Dao's main body just released and was lost in thought. Seeing Wu Dao's main body's attack descending, his figure flickered and disappeared from the spot. Facing the martial Dao true body's attack, Ghost Emperor Yang Yun easily resolved it. The gap between the two sides was too big. Wu Dao's main body quickly retreated to the distance. After Ghost Emperor Yang Yun reappeared, he hung the wine gourd in his hand on his waist. His expression was dignified and his eyes regained clarity. He stared at Wu Dao's main body and slowly asked, "Who is that Shui Dai of the medium-class world?" When the two words Shui Dai came out of his mouth, before Wu Dao's main body could react, the four ghost emperors who besieged him were startled and their attacks paused. Wu Dao's main body was greatly surprised. He looked at Ghost Emperor Yang Yun in disbelief and asked with a frown, "You know her?" The Shui Dai that Ghost Emperor Yang Yun mentioned must be Dai Yu. However, Wu Dao's main body did not expect that Dai Yu's name would spread to the underworld. Looking at the expressions of the other four ghost emperors, it was obvious that they had also heard of Shui Dai's name. More than just knowing her. Ghost Emperor Yang Yun's expression was complicated. He laughed at himself and said, "She came to the underworld before." After pausing for a moment, Ghost Emperor Yang Yun continued, "Moreover, she is the only person in the medium-class world who can enter the underworld alive and leave alive." Wu Dao's main body was speechless. As his cultivation continued to increase, the closer he got to Dai Yu, the more he could feel Dai Yu's strength and terror. However, he was curious about how Dai Yu came to the underworld and why she came here. Normally, there was a barrier between the medium-class world and the underworld. With Dai Yu's methods, she should not be able to break it. Void Yaksha, who was listening to the side, sucked in a cold breath. There was actually someone from the medium-class world who could enter the underworld alive and leave alive? Ghost Emperor Zhou Qi's face was gloomy. He coldly snorted and gritted his teeth. That's because she was lucky. If Palace Lord took action, she would not have been able to kill people in the underworld. Wu Dao's main body was shocked. Not only had Dai Yu came here, she had also killed people in the underworld? Void Yaksha's main body was pale. Ghost Emperor Yang Yun seemed to have seen through the confusion in Martial Dao Body's heart and said, "The situation back then was complicated and hard to explain in a few words. Yu's main body. Ghost Yu of the 5 Yu. There were originally 10 ghost emperors of the 5 directions. In that battle back then, 5 of them died at her hands. Even now, these 5 positions have not been filled. Yu. Ghost Emperor Yu continued, "I tried to stop her and was heavily injured by her. However, she did not kill me. She spared my life." The Martial Dao Body was somewhat surprised. Before she left a message. Ghost Emperor Yu recalled that scene and said, "Being able to survive in my hands is your life's greatest glory." In fact, that was the truth. In the battle back then, only Ghost Monarch Yang Yun had encountered Dai Yu and survived. This caused Ghost Monarch Yang Yun's reputation to soar in the netherworld, even surpassing the central Ghost Monarch Zhou Qi. The Martial Dao Body was not surprised by this. Only Dai Yu would be able to say such words. However, the Dao technique inheritance that time had been sealed for many years. It was far from being released by immortal Emperor Qinmu personally, and the impact it brought to Su Zimo was strong. Amidst the continuous sounds of the bell and drum, Su Zimo felt as though he had gained a new understanding of the concept of time. The Dao technique of morning bell and evening drum not only resonated with his momentary youth, but also gradually merged. At this moment, the bell and drum sounds suddenly disappeared. Immortal Emperor Qinmu's body was also trembling violently. He said in a low voice, "Young man, there will be a catastrophe in the middle world. I advise you to escape as soon as possible and hide at the edge of the middle world. Don't get involved, or else. Immortal Emperor Chenmu's words were still persuading Su Zimo, but his tone was a little gloomy. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Book Immortal Yunju had mentioned to him that in the previous era, there was an upheaval that swept through 3,000 realms and thousands of races. Now, he heard this from Immortal Emperor Chenmu again. In this era, the 3 emperors had come back from the dead. Was it related to this upheaval? Could it be that the legendary Demon Lord would also appear in this era? Who was the Demon Lord? Where did he come from? Go. Immortal Emperor Chenmu's face was gloomy. He suddenly waved his hand and urged Su Zimo to leave. Su Zimo looked around. He was now in the Emperor's tomb. With his methods, he could not tear the void and leave the Emperor's tomb. At this moment, Immortal Emperor Chenmu suddenly made a move and tore the void around Su Zimo. A huge suction force pulled Su Zimo into it. In the next moment, Su Zimo disappeared in the Emperor's tomb. The last scene he saw was that Immortal Emperor Muqin stopped struggling and trembling. He calmed down and slowly raised his head, looking at him indifferently with a cold gaze. Su Zimo faintly felt that the current Immortal Emperor Muqin might have changed into another person. Immortal Emperor Muqin had expected this, so he passed down his Dao technique in time and sent him out of the Emperor's tomb. Su Zimo was drifting in the space tunnel. He was dizzy and did not know where he went. With his strength, he could not control the landing point at all. He could only wait for a space node and take the opportunity to escape. In other words, the upper world was vast and boundless. There were 3,000 realms. He did not know where he would land at all. If he was unlucky, he might even descend into the heaven realm again. After an unknown period of time, in the space tunnel in front, there was a wave of Dao technique fluctuation that spread out along a space node. Su Zimo felt this Dao technique fluctuation, and a trace of surprise and strangeness flashed across his eyes. This was Wu Dao's aura. He was drifting in the void and could actually sense Wu Dao's aura in the vast upper world. Su Zimo did not hesitate.